Okay, hey everyone, happy Thursday. I hope you guys had a great day today. I cannot believe it's already January 20th. I don't know about y'all, but that is crazy to me. But so I'll start with the statement, and then we'll call roll, and then we'll get started. The Tennessee Department of Education is excited to work with you on this opportunity to discuss the state's formula for funding public education. Before we begin, the department would like to remind you of the following. Conversations on this topic are not intended to reflect on the current BEP funding formula. The current BEP funding formula will remain in place until a new funding formula is recommended and approved by the Tennessee General Assembly. The public is encouraged to submit comments in writing to ensure that all communications are thoroughly documented and can be reviewed and considered in the future. Public comment is encouraged to focus on developing a new funding formula rather than revising a current funding formula. Consider what should be funded in a new funding formula and at what level. Subcommittees will be responsible for reviewing public comment and making recommendations for what should be included in the new funding formula. While all committees, subcommittees, and members of the public should feel free to communicate openly, documents and records may be subject to public inspection pursuant to the Tennessee Public Records Act and may be publicly posted or otherwise made available. All recommendations that are submitted by committees and subcommittees will be reviewed and considered, but not all recommendations will ultimately be included in the proposed new funding formula. Okay, so I see Monty and Zoe, Callie, Kevin, Hadley, Garen, and Mr. Mitchell. So that's who I have down here. Did I miss anybody? Okay. So I do not think we had any follow-ups from meeting 4. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So this is meeting 5, and tonight we will review public comment on draft framework and then make final recommendations on components and our materials, public comment, requested materials, steering committee feedback. Just a reminder that all of these items are in our Google Drive that Ms. Thurman has sent to us. So just keep that in mind and be looking at that. Especially before the next meeting, and we'll talk about why in a few minutes, but just make sure you're looking at those items in your folder. So last week, if you recall, we kind of organized everything into must-haves, should-haves, nice-to-haves, and long shots. And tonight, we will be prioritizing those items, and that's what we'll start with. And do you kind of want to guide them through how this will work?
Yeah, when the commissioner would like for you to take the document from your January the 6th meeting and go through those buckets, the base, the weight, direct funding, and outcomes. And you have must-haves, should-haves, nice-to-haves in each one of those. So what she would like for you to do is to prioritize those. So would this group like to have nurses first? Would you like to prioritize school counselors first in the base? So that's what you all will need to finalize by the end of tonight. And once you finish this, if we have time, we will move on to some your considerations about some of the policy that will be considered with the funding. So if you want to start, this is a PDF that I've got pulled up. I will prioritize it according to what you want, and then I'll put it in a different document and share that at the end of the night. I'll send that to Elizabeth and make sure it's correct, and then I'll send it to TN EDU.
Perfect. Thank you. So, whoever wants to start, if you have a strong opinion on this first one, what you would like to see first. Let's see. I see Garen, your hand is raised. You can go ahead.
All right, well, to start off here, I think school councils are pretty important, at least in terms of hierarchy here. That's my number one. It kind of covers, graduation counselors and school psychologists. It kind of covers into that a little bit there. So if I'm going to rank things out, I think school counselors should be first in that must-have category. Moving down the list, teacher salary. We're having a hard time retaining teachers right now, so getting more benefits and salary. It's like my number two on the list there. I'll kind of leave it open for anything else. That's kind of my top two right now in terms of that base must-have category.
Thank you, Garen. Kevin, you're next.
So I think that the social media safety should move from nice to have to should have, because I think in like today's world, it's really useful to learn about social media and how to use it correctly. So I think that that should go to should have. And technology, I also believe that it should go to should have, because everything revolves around technology nowadays. And the Chromebooks that like our school provides us are like almost like unusable. They're extremely slow. So hopefully they can get some get some better technology for the students.
All right, thank you. Zoe?
I just want to make sure you guys can hear me, right? Okay, cool. Thank you. I think school counselors, school psychologists should also be higher in the hierarchy for must-haves, but also I wanted to make sure, does that include, or should include like professional development for these school counselors, school psychologists, and school workers. I feel like all school counselors, psychologists, those in that same real or particular field are not trained equally, and just ensure that we have the outcomes that we want to have. Professional development should probably be included in that as well. And then technology, I think should probably be moved up to should have. I think specifically Shelby County has done a really good job in ensuring that all students, despite need, have one-to-one devices across the county. And I believe that's something for future. Technology should be accessible for all students despite need. So, yeah.
So Zoe and Kevin, I want to make sure you all would like to move the technology from nice to have to should have. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Kevin, is there something else you said that you wanted to be moved? Was it social media?
Yes, social media, safety, and technology.
Gotcha. Okay, I see Comfort. You can go ahead.
Hi, thank you. So I heavily agree with the technology statements that everyone here has said before, especially as we've witnessed distance learning with COVID-19, and teachers and students alike have found so many more ways to utilize technology to better education outside of COVID. So I definitely think that technology should be, personally, I think it should be in the must-have category, simply because at least here in Rutherford County, it has become so vital to how we educate our students and how we access supplementary material. And then, I would definitely, I'm not going to comment on something that's already in must-have, so I would definitely take mental health classes up there as well. So, is the programs that develop character traits separate? Yes. Okay. So then to pick two, I would definitely put the mental health class in a should have, simply because today, because we have kind of moved into a technological setting for schools, students need to learn to find that balance between taking care of themselves as individuals before students. And so I think teaching kids how to balance that so that they care for themselves equally as they care for the education is a vital part of their education as people and as students. So definitely that.
Thank you. Garen, will you repeat what you said about the prioritization in the must-haves, your opinion, so that everyone else can hear it again?
Yeah, sure. I'll be glad to. To start off again, I think school counselors is something I think is probably the most important in that base section there. I mean, of course, you have school psychologists and graduation counselors. Those are both equally as important. But I think if you cover that main school counselor section, it kind of covers off those other two categories, even if we can't get to those as much, right? Moving on down the list here, I think my next one I have up is teacher salary and benefits. When I think about the issues we have right now in the school systems across the country, and especially in Tennessee, we're having a hard time finding and retaining teachers. So having more salary for them and more benefits would probably be an area I want to improve on. Now, obviously, it's not always possible, but that's an area I want to focus a little bit here. And then that's kind of where I ended it off there. But nurses are also really important as well. I'm going to do like my top 3 in that section.
I agree with you there. Nurses are also very important. I know for me personally at my school today, the line was 10 people out the door of the nurse's office. So yes, nurses definitely need to be up there. Does anybody else want to share what they think prioritization wise on must-haves for the base? Comfort, is your hand still up, or was that from earlier?
A mixture of both.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just say I agree with, I believe Garen said this earlier with the counselors. I will advise or offer my opinion in making sure that we don't overwhelm our school counselors by giving them the job of graduation counselors as well. I know personally in my school we have 2 separate, like we have one graduation counselor who kind of handles everybody, which is a lot in and of itself, but we have like 3 school counselors, and already they just have so much to do with because they're also going through college application seasons and everything alongside the like underclassmen that they have to deal with. So I would advise that school counselors are definitely like top priority, but to make sure that we're not burdening them with the job of graduation counselors, because then the pay starts to, then we have to worry about paying them more. Not that that's bad, but we want to make sure it's an equal pay to work ratio.
Comfort, are you saying that the graduation counselor should also be in the base, the must-haves in the base?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Just not to exclude them.
Okay. But separate than the school counselors and school psychologists.
Yes, sorry if that wasn't clear, but yeah, 2 separate jobs and individuals.
Okay.
Absolutely. Zoe?
I just kind of want to corroborate what Comfort said, and I agree with the graduation counselors and school counselors being 2 different entities. Just because I know for and my school specifically, because we are a small school and salaries kind of allotted based off of like attendance, and that's amount is pretty small. She has to do both jobs. It just creates a lot of frustration and confusion and overload. So I definitely agree that should be something to be emphasized. Also, I have a question about we were suggesting ratios. I'm not sure just like in there specifically, but do school counselors and I guess graduation counselors have a ratio based off of like salary for the new funding formula? I'm not sure if that's clear or not, so I'll be happy to rephrase.
I can tell you what all of the other subcommittees are sharing. They are sharing at least the national average, whatever that national average is. So would you like for me to add that to the school counselor, psychologist, graduation?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Hadley?
I'm going to say yes to a lot of things that people have already said. Definitely separating the school counselors and school psychologists. Both of those are vitally important in their own separate respects, because if they can do so much as one, imagine how much impact they could have as 2 separate things. So absolutely both of those in the must-haves. And then technology in a must-have. A couple people bounced around between should-have and must-have in those, but technology, absolutely a must-have. It's our way of life now.
Thank you, Hadley. What do we have so far for like prioritization wise?
We have, you have under must-haves in the base. Number one is school counselor, school psychologist, along with professional development and meeting the national ratio. Let me write this. I'm writing a note. I forgot to add. Teacher salary. Now these, I'm writing these as people throw those out, and so you might want to go back and discuss these. But teacher salary would be I have it at number 2. Mental health 3, nurses 4, graduation counselors 5, and technology 6. You also have should haves. You have a question of technology, and then social media safety in the should haves in the base.
Okay. And I think we might have skipped over SROs. We don't have SROs on there yet, do we?
No.
Okay, I definitely would like to add that to like prioritize in the must-haves.
Must-haves?
Yes, ma'am.
Where would you like to have that?
You can just put it after whatever we had last.
It gets kind of hard, doesn't it? Because they're all so important.
It does.
Yeah.
A little bit confusing.
Okay.
Anybody else have any opinions or objections, anything like that on what we have so far?
This is Senator Massey. I'm driving back from Nashville, so I'm on my phone, but just wanted to say these all sound really good, and you're all doing a great job.
Aren't they great,
Thank you,
Senator?
Senator.
Absolutely.
They are.
But sorry I can't see everybody's faces and things, but
That's all
I
right.
had a late afternoon meeting at Child Care Task Force, so I'm on the downswing back to Knoxville.
Just be safe.
Zoe?
Oh, I just saw like the programs that develop character traits as a thing on there, and so I just kind of wanted more information on that. Like does that like involve like SEL curriculum, or does it like I don't know like what that necessarily entails, because I think that's like I guess that's like my thing between maybe it's really like a base item or a weight item. Because I kind of see it as a weight item as like I know SEL curriculum is really important. However, the ways that like districts implement it, it varies from district to district, and also like that's pretty like a broad thing to add. So I was like really wasn't sure what that was about.
I don't remember who brought that up. If someone's on the call that suggested that, you might want to share with the group.
Comfort, was that you? You had your hand raised, I see.
No, I'm not the one who suggested. I actually wanted to add on to what Zoe had just said.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I think I definitely agree with what she's had to say. Perhaps moving that into the weight category. I think it could also. I think it's also fine where it is, but we would need a bit more detail as to what programs that develop character traits entails, because I know when we first all introduced ourselves, many of us were in DECA and FBLA and everything, and those are and youth and government are arguably those programs that develop character traits, and those are more your clubs and extracurriculars. So is that a course, is that a class, and what does that entail, I guess would be my question. So just looking for more information, as Zoe had just said a minute ago. But yes, thank you.
I can add just a little bit to Senator Massey again. There is a Medal of Honor character development program that's developed nationally on the traits that Medal of Honor recipients get, and they actually pay for teachers to go. They pay for a substitute and for teachers to go to the training, and it's all a free-based training, so that they can teach that class at the school. And it's I know that's one that's recognized here in our state. So, so I do know that I do have that information about that program. So, but I don't know that it doesn't necessarily need to be funded, but it is a significant program.
And that may be where it's from. Senator, you may be the one that brought that up. So thank you for sharing that. It's
Okay.
under, right now it's under nice to haves. So that's where it is now in the base. If
Okay. Sounds good.
considers, would like to consider moving that.
No, I think it's fine now.
Okay, so in the should haves in the base, we moved technology. No, you moved technology up to the base, and now the only thing that's under the should haves is social media safety, and you also have CTE coursework, increased CTE coursework under the should haves. Where should that go?
Increase CTE coursework.
Yes, it's under the should haves.
Okay. Monty, is your hand raised?
Yes, my hand was raised about something different, but I can cover this as well. I think it's good in should haves. We could even move it to nice to have, because I know we cover that later on in the weight and in the direct funding. So, but increasing CTE coursework is completely different than just providing regular funding for it. But I think it is good where it's at in should have. And I
agree.
I also wanted to cover English learner programs. I know I have a personal connection to it because I was in the English learner program back when I was living in Georgia districts, as well as in Tennessee. And I know Hadley as well has personal connections to it in high school throughout people that she has in her Spanish classes. I'm not sure if it would make more of a difference to have it in must-have in the weight or must-have in the base. We could talk about that. I'm okay with placing it in 6th or whatever place it is right now. It doesn't have to be first, but I definitely think it should remain in a must-have category in either one, the base or the weight.
In the weight section, if it stays in the weight, that simply means that districts who have a high population of English language learners would receive more. That weight, that's what the weight means. Now, we'll also say that there is another subcommittee that I facilitate, and it is the English Learners Subcommittee, and that group has that in their base. So it's way up there in both groups.
Okay, so I think it's okay where it's at right now because we have put it in that must-have category throughout the weight, which is important.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree with that. The English Learners Program is something I'm very passionate about, and I think that it should be placed pretty highly too. So thank you for sharing.
So, Muncie, would you like for that extra resources for the ELL programs to be number 1 under weight?
Yes, I would like it to remain number 1 under weight. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Zoe?
I also just have like a couple of thoughts too. I think that like economically disadvantaged should possibly go fund give the students. Just speaking from like a policy stats perspective, typically give the students, especially here in Shelby County or Memphis, if you want to call it, kind of like a higher income than economically disadvantaged students. And I just think like resources and further like wraparound services and resources need to be put towards equally disadvantaged students population. So that's kind of why I prefer economically disadvantaged to kind of go before gifted students that might perhaps have additional needs.
All right. So move economically disadvantaged to wait and wraparound services. I could add as well in parentheses wraparound services.
I personally agree with that, and then I tend to want to follow that with the learning disabilities. I'd like to put that after economically disadvantaged students. Comfort, is your hand raised?
Sorry, I just realized and put it down. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss you. Monty?
With the learning disabilities, could we put dyslexia up with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll put that in parentheses.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Yes. I think that funding for elementary and middle school, well, I'm not exactly sure about middle school, but at least elementary classrooms, I think that it should go at the very last of the must-haves, because I I don't think that teachers get paid enough in Tennessee, and um and they shouldn't have to give a portion of their paycheck to let their students have a better experience in class. So I think that the government should provide a little bit of fund for to decorate classrooms and stuff for elementary or middle school kids.
So you'd like to put that up to the must-haves?
Yes. Probably at the very last.
Okay.
Is that under weight?
Yes, that's underway.
So let me ask you this. I'm trying to figure out how you would like for me to write it. Would you put teacher salary for elementary and middle school classrooms increased? Is that,
Yeah.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to figure out how to write this, what your thought is.
I was thinking they would get a I'm not exactly sure. They would just get extra, just a few, just extra money to help pay for their classroom, I guess. Like bonus or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I'd say he's saying a stipend for classroom supplies.
I think that's perfect.
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay.
It could also, this is just a thought as I'm looking at it. It could also, because you all have put teacher salary as number 2 under the base, the must-haves. You could also add that in parentheses, stipend for classroom supplies, and then that would be the must-haves in the base. So either way is fine. Just a couple of different ways of thinking about it, and I'll let you all tell me which one you prefer.
Monty?
I prefer it the second way, to have it in the base as well, because I think this could benefit all teachers, elementary and middle school alike, because they're all trying to decorate their classrooms. They're all trying to have those flyers and stuff out for students that are laminated, because that costs extra money, having those machines, just having those materials available. Yeah.
I agree with that. They go hand in hand. So I think that you could put it in parentheses, in the base under must-haves.
So where would
Zoe.
you have,
Sorry.
the one that you have left, you have high population of before and after school students, or and the gifted students under the must-haves and the weight.
Zoe, do you have an opinion on that one?
Oh, no, I actually had something. I know there's a lot of additional things, but I actually had something additional. Monday of last week, I want to say, I attended a meeting with Momentum Memphis, and so a lot of the other subcommittee members were there, and they were sharing what they had also had, and I felt there was like maybe a couple we could either discuss or possibly add to the list for weights. And so there's two that I didn't see, but they might be worded differently on here, so I'll just go ahead and share. But some express waste for charter enrollment. I think economically disadvantaged and concentration of poverty might be similar. However, I'm not sure depending on how we define those terms. And then they also put a rate on rural area schools and schools that also have sparse populations, but have the need to be funded as well as equally due to being a sparse or having like not as many students as would be funded through like an ADM or ADA based funding formula.
So Zoe, would you put those under weights?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in what order would you prefer?
Haha. That's the thing. Okay. They can. I guess it could be towards the like tail end, but I guess if I had to put maybe rural sparsity and then charter enrollment.
Okay.
Something more information I would kind of like further is just defining like are these committees defining economic disadvantage and concentration of poverty different? Or like what are the definition of poverty in this instance for the funding formula? Because I could see how those could be treated differently or as the same. They're just using like them as synonymous terms that could be switched out.
Well, we will take a look at today if we have time, and if not today, then we'll take a look at it next week. We will take a look at what the steering committee discussed. The steering committee subcommittee, who the commissioner meets with frequently, they discussed recently policy. And the definition of economically disadvantaged as it stands now is direct certification. That's how it's identified now. The definition of concentration of poverty is currently attending a title school. The definition of sparsity, currently it's identified by students per square mile. Federal is 10, but the range is 10 to 25 students per mile. So there's a difference between rural and then sparsity. Good questions. And I will share too, Elizabeth and I, in preparation for next week's meeting, we can send talked about this morning early. We talked about sending the video of the steering committee and the commissioner as they discuss these policies. So next week, when you all have time to get to it, you'll have an understanding of what is meant by some of these definitions. So that would give you an idea and just a better understanding. So we'll share that in an email to you as one of your materials. Okay, so it looks like you're ready for direct funding, the must-haves. Anybody else, anything else I should add? If you would like, let me tell you what you have for weight under must-haves. So it appears that you have moved your should-haves up to your must-haves or moved it around. So you have under must-haves, ELL programs, and I'll go down as you mentioned them. So prioritizing ELL programs, economically disadvantaged and the wraparound services, Learning disabilities, dyslexia is included in that. Let's see, rural, sparsity, and charter. Underweight, must have. Okay. So you're ready for direct funding must-haves.
Would anybody like to start us off for that? If they feel a certain way about direct funding must-haves? Motzi, is your hand? Yes, your hand's raised.
I think we should have equipment and extra resources for CTE classrooms and CTE programs such as work-based learning and all that as first.
Haley?
I agree with Motzi, and I think we should also include middle school CTE up there towards the front as well.
Okay, so CTE equipment and then middle school CTE. Is that right, Motzi and Haley?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Perfect. I tend to agree with that. Hadley?
For financial literacy, it's under a should have. I think that should be moved to a must have, especially as students are getting their first jobs and first starting to earn paychecks. They need to know what to do with that money. They need to know how to invest it. They need to know how to use that smart to make goals. So I think that though it doesn't have to be at the very, very beginning of must have, it should absolutely be up there a little bit more.
Would you like to add that behind CTE middle school?
That's perfect. That sounds great.
Okay. Harrison?
Yeah, I think that we should, excuse me, I'm sorry. I think that we should move the ACT test, AP core test, and CLEP exams. We should move those to the only being in should have, or nice to have, I'm sorry, because those programs do already exist within what we have right now with students. Every student of Tennessee gets at least 2 free ACT exams. Students who qualify for both AP and CLEP, or who qualify for free and reduced lunch programs, which is like those who are in the socioeconomic category who struggle with that department, also get reduced or free tests depending on if they meet certain levels of poverty or economic struggles, if that makes sense. So I feel like we should move those out of the must-have because there are already systems in place for that in Tennessee, and I feel like there are other issues that are more important right now. So it would be nice to have those programs expanded in the future, but I feel like that's not our biggest priority.
Thank you. So you would like to move those down to the nice to have category?
Yeah, I know they're technically in both right now, but I feel like it can be a little bit confusing or misleading whenever like the final report comes out. So I feel like I just like to clarify that.
Yes. Also, I see middle school CTE in parentheses career exploration in should haves, and I think that goes along with what we said for middle school CTE in the must haves. So just that in the must haves. I'm all for middle school career exploration and CTE. Ella?
One thing that I think we should move is the high dosage tutoring up to the must have, just because I think that's so important for students that are struggling. I mean, you can't succeed in school if you don't know what's going on. So I just think that would be very important. Maybe not like the first thing, but definitely up there.
So right now in must-haves, we have CTE equipment, CTE middle school, and financial literacy. Would you want to tag that behind financial literacy? What are your thoughts on that?
I would maybe put it in the middle of our CTEs and financial literacy. I think it could even go before CTEs. Um, I guess maybe other people have different opinions about where it should go, but maybe before financial literacy.
Okay. Let's see. We'll get some more opinions. I'm not sure who had their hand raised next, so I'll go with Motzi.
I agree with Ella, not to put it before CTE, but to have it in the must-have, high dosage tutoring. It's needed in most subjects that high schoolers students, but I think we should put it in the middle of equipment for CTE and financial literacy, so it should be second.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Motzi. Zoe?
Okay, so you wanted, I think I didn't put this right. You want equipment for CTE / middle school CTE career readiness all together. So that's one. That would be one, and then you would have high dosage tutoring, then financial literacy. Is that right? So all of the CTE would be one. Okay. All right. Makes sense.
Yes. Zoe, you can go ahead.
Okay, cool. Sorry, that was a little late. But I was just saying that I want to say it was Harrison that said removing ACT. I want to say it was Harrison that said removing like ACT tests, ACP course tests from and CLAP exams from must-haves, and moving it to like nice to have. Well, I definitely agree they shouldn't be in they shouldn't be in both categories. I actually agree in staying in the must-have section, just because when we're talking about like the cutoffs for socioeconomic classes and everything, there's like a hard cutoff. And when it means like improv is like really improv, like I think the income, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like $35,000 or lower for a family income, or you have to qualify some way. That's how you get the free and reduced test. However, I think there are those who fall, especially Tennessee families that fall in that middle income slot. However, but do struggle to either have access to those courses or access to the materials to pay, especially for the ACT. It's very like for example, like I qualify for a free reduced test for the SAT, but don't qualify for the ACT or AP test. However, I'm a triplet, and when I take my AP course exams, I've taken 3 classes. They'll total up to be like maybe like $300 or $100 for me, and then like $300 for all 3 of my siblings, me included. So one can see how expensive that really quickly. However, so therefore, that's what I'm advocating for. Just give it direct funding to schools that have it, and then they'll be at leisure to see like who gets and who doesn't get it. But I do feel like it should be like equitably passed out for at least for like a direct funding perspective.
Is there a possible way when you're recording this that you can put that one student thought it should say in the must-haves, and like one student thought it should move down to should have? Would that be okay just to record and keep in mind?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. We'll get some more feedback. Kevin, I saw you next.
Yes. Although free ACT tests and AP course tests are like offered throughout Tennessee, but like Harrison said, but I do think that it should be in the must-haves and at near the very top, because the school only offers 2 ACT tests per year, and they are required. All students are required to take it. I think that students should at least be able to should be required to take it at least once or twice. But for the students that want to continue taking the ACT test, like I personally taken it 6 times. The school didn't pay for those, and I think that those should be funded by the government because of how important ACT and AP courses are. Like ACT tests are required to go into many like different colleges, and also required for many merit scholarships. That students that might not be able to afford the ACT test might not be able to get. And also at my school, the AP, we only have 2 AP courses. Although the tests are free, there aren't many courses available. So I would like to see more courses be available, even though the tests are free.
Okay, so add like more AP courses, make more AP courses available to students. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, make more AP courses available to students, and also allow students to have more ACT, more free ACT tests, but not make it required.
Gotcha. We'll get that down. Thank you, Kevin. Harrison?
Yeah, just to kind of elaborate back on my point, I know that, and Ms. Thurman can correct me if I'm wrong, but the definition that we've been given for must-have is directly related to student health and safety. So I feel like, yes, it's again, it's really important, and obviously, like, these have a direct correlation, to college and scholarships and all that fun stuff, but it doesn't directly affect a student's health or safety. So I feel like we should kind of take that into consideration, as well as I know that an AP test cost on average, I think it's $60, and you can correct me again if I'm wrong. So that adds up over time, because like Kevin, if you were saying, if you're taking 6 of those exams, let me do quick math. I should have had that prepared. 50 times 6 would be $360. But again, if every student across the state takes 6 ACT exams, that adds up very quickly. And that money, I think, could be better allocated in other places. So I just want to kind of remind us of that.
Thank you, Harrison. Let's see. Garen.
So I'll be brief here. Harrison kind of stole my thunder on that one in terms of the price point, in terms of how we could allocate things better. I guess just for the record purposes, we're going to be keeping a list of who sits where. I kind of sit with Harrison on having it and being in that lower category.
And the nice to have, Karen.
You got it.
Okay, and so Harrison, is that what you also were asking about?
Yes, ma'am. I was just asking. So I'm 99% sure that our definition of like what you and Elizabeth gave us at the beginning of trying to sort out our priorities was that must-have was directly related to student health and like well-being and safety and all those like very, very core important issues. So I just want to make sure that like we're going by the definition of what it's supposed to be ordered as.
I can, what I'll do is, because the committee feels strongly, and then there's other subcommittees that I facilitate that members feel strongly one way or another. So I will add it to in the lowest ranking of the must-haves for direct funding, and then I'll also add it in the nice-to-haves.
Perfect, since we're pretty split. Yeah, That's good. Monty, I saw you next, I think.
Yes. So, like Zoe and Kevin were saying, I don't think ACT should be, they were saying it should be in must-have. And we're going to put it at the end of must-have for now, but is it a possibility that we could move it from nice-to-have straight to should-have if it doesn't make it into the must-have category through the review process? Because right now, I don't think we're going to have anything in the should-have. We took out financial literacy, high dosage tutoring, middle school CTE. We moved that all to must-have in their respective order. So could we just keep ACT tests, AP courses, and CLEP exams in the should-have based on however many schools need it? And then also...
You can also keep, I can, under should-haves, I can also have that under should-haves, and that will just let everyone know that you're all split as to, it's important to you, it's important to everyone, but the importance of it is split on the committee or where it should fall.
Yes, that's perfect. I agree, because I think it obviously affects people differently income-wise and the household income, but it might not make it in the must-have, even it's in the last order. So should-have is a good place to happy medium between the two. And also, could we add, we talked about dual enrollment in the first couple of meetings, but I don't see it in here don't see it in the direct funding. Could we add dual enrollment funding for dual enrollment courses through the high school department in the must-have? Wherever it is now would be fine with me.
Under direct funding?
Under direct funding, yes, ma'am.
And so where would you put that?
In the must-have category.
Under, okay, so maybe with, are you saying with the AP test?
No, just keep that separate, I think.
All right. So that would be number 5 in the direct funding must-have.
Yep.
Will you tell us the order so far for direct funding must-have?
Yeah. Yep. So number 1 is CTE, equipment for classrooms, middle school CTE career readiness. That was all under number 1. Number 2 was high dosage tutoring. Number 3, financial literacy. Number 4, AP test, ACT test, and then more AP courses. And then number 5 is dual enrollment. That's how you prioritized your direct funding must-haves.
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yes, I think that covers everything we had in there too.
Mm-hmm. And then all you have
Garen,
left are the outcomes.
Garen, would you like to share?
I think I left my hand raised. That's on me. My bad.
No worries at all. You're good. Okay, so we can move on to outcomes. Is everybody good with what we have for direct funding? I'll take that as a yes. So we will move on to outcomes and start with must-haves, just like we've been doing. So we have a few minutes left. So anybody that would like to share how they feel, we can go ahead. Monsi?
In the must-have, I don't see this at all, but could we have even more like maybe outside tutoring or just like some type of resource that students could have to get their ACT score to a 21 or higher within that must-have category? I mean, in the outcome, yeah, must-have category. Like after they're getting the funding, we want them to show those results in the test.
I like that a lot. What would you like to call that?
I guess resources for ACT scores, and then I guess include that we want it to be at least like a 21 or higher.
So they can qualify, right? Okay, yeah, qualify for the, yes. Perfect. I really like that. That's a good one. Zoe?
I just want to see, like, I don't know if this is well, I know it's tracked, but I don't know how easy it's tracked, but maybe specifically with implementation after, like, in the economic disadvantaged and concentration of poverty school districts or areas, that we see, like, growth and, like, success rates, and, like, their literacy and, like, reading and math rates I know are tracked. I have to, like, send specifics of where I got the stats from, but I know I found them on Department of Education's website. So, yeah.
So Zoe, was there something that you wanted me to add?
Oh, yeah. I didn't see outcomes like I guess like districts would like, I don't know, have an increase in their success rate. I guess you could make it more specific if you want like points, but I don't like have a specific like point increase in mind. So yeah.
So for success rates?
Yeah.
And you'd like to see that in must-haves for the outcomes?
Yes.
Okay. Monsi, for the ACT resources to qualify for a 21, where would you prioritize that?
I'd say must-have.
Would you like to put it like first in that category?
Let's see. Work-based learning.
out of what's there so far?
I think we could have it first or second. What we have first right now, I think, is work-based learning and early opportunity, middle school opportunities, or maybe freshman, sophomore opportunities. Either one works for me.
Okay, does anybody have any opinion on that, where those items should go? Harrison?
I think that we should remove the work-based learning option because again the minimum like requirement to or like minimum age to work in Tennessee is 16, and like we don't have the ability to kind of change that or anything like that. So I feel like we can't offer work-based learning opportunities at a younger age because it's just like legally not possible. So I feel like it would kind of be out of our domain to mention that.
Callie?
Yeah, so I just kind of had an idea with the work-based learning. I know my school has work-based learning where people who are above 16 can go to jobs or like an internship after school or like during the end of their school hours. But maybe we could add in like service learning with that. So for people that are below the age of 16, like in high school, they can work with maybe a teacher that they like to hang out with that kind of is in their field. So I have an example, like I have a friend who has a service learning period with our chemistry teacher. So she helps with a lot of lab work for her chemistry courses and biology. So maybe that's an idea we can try to implement for those who don't meet that age requirement to go physically out into the workplace and in the work field. So maybe some type of like job shadowing would be kind of cool to do.
So are you kind of saying that for the younger age, like that in place of something like leaving school and going to a job, like same amount of time, everything?
So it would be for like they could go do service learning. I guess it's not really like work-based learning per se because they wouldn't be going to like an actual job and having to travel. It'd be with on campus for sophomores and freshmen.
Service learning for those that don't meet the age requirement.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You know, you can actually work at 14 or 15 with limited hours and limited times you could work. But another thing you could add to that would be job preview. So I mean, I used to run Sertoma with, you know, serving adults with disabilities, and you would take some of the folks with disabilities out to preview job sites. So the younger folks could do that also. But 14 and 15-year-olds can work under limited parameters because my daughter did when she was in high school. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator, for clearing that up for us. Thank you so much. Monty, is your hand still raised? Okay.
Yes. I just want to talk about, Callie said service learning in addition to work-based learning. My school offers both programs. I did service learning my junior year, and then I just went to a local middle school about 5 minutes away from at my high school. And then I helped out with the 7th grade teacher with anything she needed towards the end of the day, and that was my 7th period class. So after that, I would just go home. It required me to leave campus, but I know some students also did that on campus, but I was just placed in that teacher's supervision. So I was just helping her out, and like she was looking over me and everything. So she helped me out that way. And then I do work-based learning this year when I work with my dad, and I come home 7th period and I just work with him. So I think both of those are important, but we should also include service learning in that because I don't see that in here at all yet.
So I have for outcomes must have resources for CTE scores. Is that correct? Is that what you said first, Monty?
Yes.
Increase for success rates, and then service learning for those that don't meet the age requirements for work-based learning. Is that right? Okay,
yes. Also, like put in parentheses with the CTE. I mean, not with the CTE. With the ACT score. include that we want them to get to 21 or higher. That way they can qualify for those state scholarships to go for college for free in state.
Okay.
Let's see. Saw somebody. Harrison.
I think what Callie said was an awesome idea. So I think that we should replace the work-based learning thing, the wording with that, and replace that with service-based learning or service learning if we can do that. Because I know that, Senator, like you were talking about, that students can work at 14 and 15. They just have like very severe restrictions against them. Because I know that at my old job, we had a couple of 15-year-olds who were working there, but they couldn't work more than a couple days in a row, and they couldn't work more than like a certain number of hours at a time. I think it was 4 or 5. I don't know the exact rules on it, but I think it would be it wouldn't be feasible to have students at that age working through a high school, because they have to maintain a certain number of hours per week for work-based learning. So I think Callie's idea of changing that to service-based learning would be awesome.
And that's what I did. I added that as number 3 outcomes under must-haves, service learning for those that don't meet the age requirement for work-based learning. Is that right? Okay. Okay, that looks like everything.
Mm-hmm.
So,
any final thoughts from anybody? Okay, I think we're good.
yeah, so next week will be our final session together, the 27th at 5 o'clock, and we will start discussing policy considerations. And I will send you a link with the commissioners' conversation with the steering committee as they talk about policy, and that will give you a lot of really good insight. And if there's going to be any more materials that will be uploaded into your week 6 Google folder, it will come on Friday probably, which is tomorrow. Okay. Thank you all for your hard work today. And Elizabeth, anything else?
I don't think so. Yeah, just watch out for that video. Because I know personally I'm not very familiar with policy, so I will definitely need to watch the video. And she was saying a lot of the other committees have needed to watch the video too, because they might have 1 or 2 people who are policy people, but most people just don't know much about it. So just keep an eye out for that. And I think that's all I have. Thank you guys for being here.
See y'all next week for our final meeting. Thank you.